No, I didn't. I did not.
I'm very skeptical.
I carried around with the stuff much?
Ready, gang?
Oh,
I was going to say.
Good evening and welcome to the October 5th, 2016 meeting of the Abington Township Board of Commissioners Public Works Committee. And may I have a roll call, please? Here.
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 Here. Thank you. Our first order of business this evening is to approve the minutes of the August 29, 2016 Public Works Committee meeting. And may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. PW1, and this is a motion to authorize the Township Administration to solicit requests for proposals for engineering services to be received by the close of business on November 4th, and I so move.
Second.
I'm going to turn this item over for discussion to Township Manager Michael Lefevre.
Thank you, Commissioner Hecker. PW1 entails a motion from the board to authorize staff to solicit an RFP for engineering services. And let me stress, in no way is any recommendation been made or decision made in regard to engineering services. The board may recall Mr. Powers retired from full-time employment at the end of last calendar year and has continued in a part-time capacity. The board appointed Mr. Powers to a one-year term as engineer to see how that would work out. We're going to revisit that appointment in January of 2017. Prior to making that determination, this motion is intended only to provide the board the opportunity to get information to gauge the level of interest on outside engineering firms and any associated costs. We want to put you in a position to make a decision with all available information should you be in a position where you have to make a change or go in a different direction. I'm not suggesting that's the case. Receiving these RFPs may enlighten the board on what a nice opportunity we presently have. We don't know that until we get that information. So this in no way reflects any dissatisfaction with the current operation or suggesting we move in a different direction. It's just an opportunity to get the facts, to put you in a position to make the appropriate decision. You do have to understand, any decision made regarding engineering services has an impact on the 2017 budget. We're going to present the initial proposed budget to the board this Friday in your packet. So it's important as we move forward that any changes or any directions you might move in terms of engineering, you have all the appropriate information. Thank you.
Thank you, Manager Lefevre. I'm going to open this up for comment or questions from members of the committee. Commissioner Myers.
I was really confused by this. It's a motion. We're obviously being asked to take to do something here, and I'm really confused because I thought that our engineering department was intact, and Mike Powers had gone to part-time. We certainly reduced the cost of that, and I've always been under the impression that if we contracted out for engineering services, we'd be spending twice what we spend for our department in-house. Is this to look at the cost? I mean, there's certainly a cost factor.
Absolutely, and that's the purpose of the RFP. I share your opinion. I mean, there's certainly a dollar savings by Mr. Powers going to a part-time capacity. We did benefit of that in our budget, and there is a lot of speculation on what the cost would be on an outside engineering firm. And not that that's your only option. Should Mr. Powers decide tomorrow he doesn't want to continue in a part-time capacity, we have other options, whether we want to bring in a full-time engineer in-house, a part-time engineer in-house, or an outside engineering firm. This is just one component of the information you'll need to consider if and when you want to move in a different direction. And it's very well possible that we could maintain the current operation indefinitely in the future. That's certainly a possibility, and it may result in maintaining the status quo. But I share your opinion. I mean, I've had some experience moving from an in-house engineer to an outside engineering firm, and it wasn't it wasn't necessarily the best move financially for the township. There were different benefits from an outside engineering firm, but all in all, depending on the firm you select and how that's incorporated, there's certainly cost involved with it.
Has anybody asked Mr. Powers how he likes doing this part-time? Does he intend to do this for a while? Has anybody talked to Mike?
Mr. Powers can hear us right now, too, so I wasn't aware of that. But, yes, we've had
Oh,
that.
that's right. Hi, Mike.
And you know, be upfront, this is awkward for Mr. Powers to have this conversation in front of him, but we've had this conversation a number of times. I think he's very happy in the part-time capacity. It's worked well for him. It's supplementing his retirement, and he's still involved in the department that he's worked with for over 3 decades. So, yeah, certainly have that, and I think he's given any indication, I don't want to speak for Mr. Powers, but he's given every indication he would like to continue in that capacity.
Well, I would certainly hope that, especially when we look at the budget and last year's budget, what this board was forced to do, that we would look at what was the most economical way. And, you know, Abington residents have really come to appreciate our engineering department. And between Mike and Tim Clark, they know every inch of this township. And if any of us have a problem after hours on the weekend, they're available. They certainly have come out for me. I don't know that an engineering firm would offer those services. I hope we never have to go in the direction of contracting an outside engineering firm.
And again, this is no commitment that we're moving in that direction. It's certainly just one option.
Well, you have to wonder why it's on here. I mean,
Well, you certainly don't want to wait till January. I mean, the board made the appointment, the Board of Commissioners made the appointment for a 1-year term. That term expires in December. I have no guarantee what the board will do in January. So should you choose to move in a different direction, you need some information to make that decision. And then we're just trying to position you so you can make the appropriate decision on all available information. That's all.
it's real simple. It's going to cost twice as much. It's real simple.
Well, if I can just say something real quickly, if you have those numbers, I'm happy to look at them, but before we actually solicit proposals and get people to make proposals, we don't know what they are. So basically, I think we have a fiscal responsibility, the township, to look at all options. And this could be, what we do now could be the best option, and that could be made very clear by the numbers we get in. But if we put our head in the sand and we just say, hey, what 90% of the townships in the state do is wrong, and we don't know what the numbers are, then we're doing a disservice, because there's sometimes changes necessary, sometimes it's not. But we have to look at the numbers and make sure what's going on and what we're doing is the correct way of doing things.
Commissioner Spiegelman.
Thank you, Director Hecker. Along the same lines as Commissioner Markman's comment, as we all know, we're in a unique period in the township's history where over the course of the coming months and years, literally hundreds of years of institutional knowledge and experience in the form of various department heads and senior level department people are going to be retiring. And I mean, we are doing our due diligence, and we'd be irresponsible to not just look at what options are out there rather than sort of put blinders on and move along with automatic appointments. We're committed to, as has been made clear, we're committed to absolutely nothing by asking the question and seeing what's out there. We look at the numbers, and it's not like we're not going to take Engineer Powers' experience and opinions into account. But again, we would be irresponsible just ignoring what other communities do and what options are out there after so long, of continuity with the same people.
Commissioner Farron.
Thank you. Mr. LaFever, do we have an idea on how long of a timeline we would need for these RFPs to come in, or a standard procedure? Like, this will be possible to be accomplished before the budget?
Before the budget is finalized. Assuming the committee approves it and the full board approves it next week, we'll send it out immediately. We'll post it on our website. Somehow, some engineering firms have already gotten wind of it, maybe because it's on the agenda this evening, and we're already receiving calls expressing interest. So we'll send it out, and we'll ask for responses within a relatively short period of time, by early November. So we'll have that information before the budget is presented, and certainly adopted in December.
So we'll have time to go and thoroughly vet all of the proposals that might happen to come in.
If we
Absolutely.
decide, even if we decide to go in that direction.
Right.
I mean, I think that's the fundamental choice point, is based on what comes in from an economic standpoint. It may not be worth pursuing any further.
Sure.
There's the information.
Right.
So.
And by that point, we'll have a firm understanding, at least of Mr. Powers' intent. Mike, we'll have a firm understanding of your intent at that point, to see how we relate that to the proposals that might come in and how the costs may be different.
Yeah, I don't take any offense to this. I mean, I think the board's trying to do the right thing, and, as far as the department, you got a great department, you guys know that. And you're just trying to look at the numbers, and like I said, I'm sitting here because I don't take offense, I know you have to do what you have to do, so don't feel that I'm taking any offense to any of this.
Thank you, Mr. Powers.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gillespie, and then...
Thank you. I'm just curious, at the state conference, the commissioners' conference in June, an engineer did come up to me and said, I heard you're going to be looking for an outside engineering company. Well, I nearly fell over, so I guess it's been longer than just being on the agenda tonight. I read it the other day, but so evidently it's been out there. I had no idea.
We actually
Said it to me.
received quite a few calls last year because most of the engineering firms are familiar with Mr. Powers. He's been here so long, and they were aware he was planning on retiring. So we started receiving calls on this in the middle of last year.
Okay.
I think, to Michael Lefevre's point, it's no secret that we got a well-seasoned staff here at Abington Township, 30-plus years almost in every department. So everybody knows there's going to be movement at Abington at some point in time. So just to your point, Carol, they're looking, they're asking questions, and to your point, Peggy, no one's been endeared to Mike Powers and his staff more than I have over the years. But like I've seen the board change, the township's going to have to change. Mike's not going to stay here forever. So we just have an obligation to look at other options and see what's out there, provided Mike decides he could leave it at any time. But more importantly, we have an obligation to the township to look forward and anticipate changes being made and have to act accordingly. So we can't wait and do everything at the last minute and then make a knee-jerk reaction. So I think I don't have any problem with this myself. But in all due fairness, Mike has served the township well and has done a wonderful job, and he and his staff, I think, deserve a lot of kudos. Thank you.
Commissioner Kalinowski.
So if we have a great department, beyond looking at these, the proposals coming in, will we also look at continuing to keep this department the great department that it already is? I guess that would be my only concern. So, and if this has been out there for a while, I think maybe are we heading in a direction that some of us know about and others don't, I guess? I don't know,
Well, I guess obviously when the engineer steps down, you don't reappoint a full-time engineer, you're considering other options. So I think that's kind of apparent from last year's actions.
Commissioner Spiegelman.
Just briefly, Director Heckers, thank you. Certainly, to Commissioner Kalinowski's question, specifically, all options would be on the table. The whole idea is just gives us a menu of options instead of just the one option of kind of continuing with things exactly as they are. This gives us a full range of choices, and it's been no secret to the whole world that as we discussed, a whole lot of department heads, a whole lot of institutional knowledge is about to retire. So to Commissioner Gillespie's comment, it's really not surprising that that basically salespeople from engineering firms would come up and make a comment based on what they want to hear, saying, "Hey, here you're in the market for a new engineer," versus, "Hey, what's going on in Abington?" Because that's not the way those salespeople work.
Didn't say anything. It's an outside engineer.
Yeah, I'll make the point. Manager Lefevre mentioned this to me, I guess, a week or more ago, the idea of this was going to be a potential agenda item, and I share the sentiments that have been expressed here tonight. I've been on the board a short time, and I've had a number of complicated situations that have been addressed through the efforts, the hard work, and the creativity of the engineering department. So I'm as grateful to them as anyone on the board. I think as an exercise in due diligence, as we're thinking not only about this, but we're on the verge of pretty monumental change across the board in terms of the leadership of the departments in the township. And from my perspective, I just want to make sure that we're strategic about this across the board and don't miss any opportunities. As the director of this committee, I have no preordained thoughts, assumptions, ideas about where this should ultimately wind up. I think the idea of having additional information to review as part of a broader decision-making by the committee and ultimately by the board probably makes sense. And so from that perspective, I think it's reasonable to see what comes back in with the idea that we may take it and put it in the circular file after we read them. Any other comments or questions from members of the board? Staff? Any comments from members of the audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
PW2. This is a motion to authorize the proper township officials to enter into an agreement with PennDOT for snow and ice removal on PennDOT highways for the winter season 2016, 2017, and I so move.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from members of the committee?
I have one question.
Commissioner Klein.
Do we traditionally follow the same type of agreement with the county for their roads?
It's not identical, but it is similar. You may recall last year, or actually 2 years ago, we approached PennDOT to make an adjustment in the allocation and reimbursement, and a significant improvement in our allocation, not statewide, but our allocation for snow and ice services was granted. We did approve last year a new 5-year agreement. This is the second year of that 5-year agreement under those revised terms, which are more favorable to the township.
And were we able to get the county in the same ballpark?
Yes, and county's not as easy as PennDOT, but yeah, we have worked in that
Have we had any
direction.
preliminary conversations with the county about what their...
Not recently, but there were conversations last year. We did receive some additional funds. I'm not sure exactly how close they are to the state numbers, but I can get that information to you.
Thank you.
Manager Lefebvre, I have a procedural question. If I recall correctly, this agreement is required to be renewed annually by mutual consent or agreement?
That's correct.
Does the township's agreement come prior to, I mean, or are these, do they happen in parallel? Or are they waiting for us to take a board action before they'll sign off?
PennDOT is looking for our confirmation that we want to continue the relationship.
Understood. Thank you.
No doubt.
Other questions or comments from members of the board?
Well, I'm sorry. Do we have an idea of whether the numbers worked out for us, the increased numbers?
Most definitely, absolutely, yes.
Other comments or questions? Any comments from staff? Members of the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. PW3, and this is a motion to approve the design and construction agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, including the project management plan for the Abington Environmental Improvement Project to provide for an improved riparian buffer and stream corridor improvements along the Sandy Run Creek, and I so move.
Second.
I'm going to ask Manager Lefebvre to introduce the discussion on this topic.
Thank you, Commissioner Hecker. The board may recall in the summer of this year, the board approved moving ahead with some federal funds that were approved for planning purposes to implement environmental improvements to Sandy Run watershed, approximately $200,000 in federal funds with a 25% match from the township. That study was completed, and the Army Corps of Engineers have come up with a project management plan for the Sandy Run watershed. The project they're proposing is basically a $2.6 million improvement project to that watershed. Assuming all the pieces fall into place, and there are a number of variables involved here, it would involve $2 million in federal funds with approximately $662,000 match from the township. Now, this is a great opportunity for the township for a number of reasons. The board is very familiar with the Wissahickon watershed and the TMDL that was placed or proposed by EPA and DEP. Instead of moving forward with the initial proposal, the board supported the idea of a joint effort by the participating municipalities in the Wissahickon watershed to come up with an alternative TMDL plan. That plan, the timeline for that plan coincides exactly with the development of this plan. When that final TMDL plan is finalized for the Wissahickon, it will involve significant dollars from each of the participating municipalities. And when I say significant dollars, it could be anywhere from several $100,000 to millions of dollars by each municipality. So your opportunity now, if this project moves forward and falls into place, we can get the value of $2.6 million credit towards the Wissahickon improvements with only a $662,000 contribution on our part. So it's a major savings on our part, aside from the environmental benefits to the whole watershed. So I have with us today Eric Rourke, who's the Chief of Program Development Planning for the Philadelphia Division of the Army Corps of Engineers, and he wants to make a brief presentation on the project, and then we can go further from there. Mr. Rourke?
Good evening and welcome, Mr. Rourke.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
No, 2 doors down, past that.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to give you a real quick overview of the project that we've scoped out and working in partnership with the township. Specifically, it's called the Abington Township Environmental Improvement Project, and it's a partnership together with the Army Corps of Engineers and the township to construct ecosystem restoration projects. As was mentioned earlier, in 2016, Congress appropriated $200,000 in federal funds to initiate work on this project. To advance the project to the next stages, we're at a point where we need to execute a cost-sharing agreement between the federal government and the township to proceed with it. Real quick, some of you may not know a whole lot about the Army Corps of Engineers. My 10-second commercial is we represent the Philadelphia District, which is the Delaware River watershed. We're a water resource agency, so all that we work on is somehow related to water, whether it's flood control, coastal storm risk management, or environmental restoration. This particular project, there are 2 things that the Army Corps of Engineers needs to work on a project. The first one is funding, which I had mentioned that we already have $200,000 in federal funds. The other is an authorization. Unlike other federal agencies, we are project funded, and Congress will authorize us for each and every project that we work on. In 1996, there was a Water Resource Development Act, which authorized the Corps to work on environmental infrastructure type projects. And it was amended in '99 to include ecosystem restoration projects for southeastern Pennsylvania. So it's just the 5-county area of Bucks, Delaware, Chester, Montgomery, and Philadelphia. The cost share for this is 75% federal, 25% non-federal, and that's for the entire project. A lot of projects we work on have varying cost share requirements based on the phase. This one is 75-25 for the entire life of the project. For this particular project, we had a multidisciplinary team of scientists and engineers go out with township officials and walk the Sandy Run watershed. We looked at various sites and tried to identify potential projects. There were 3 criteria that we were looking at when the team went out. The first was a clearly definable problem. We were basically looking for projects that we could get a real big win from right off the bat. We know what the problem is without spending a whole lot of effort trying to figure out what it is and how to fix it. The other was appropriate scope. Does it fit that authority we mentioned? And then also the time to realize the benefits. We want to make sure when we build a project that the community is starting to see these benefits right away versus having benefits accrue further down the road. 2 sites rose to the top on that. It was Roychester Park and Grove Park. They were identified as high priority areas. In Roychester Park, there's severe stream bank erosion along there. The erosion is adding sediment to the stream, moving that sediment downstream, causing a degraded habitat. There are also portions in Roychester Park that are underground. The stream is actually in a culvert for several hundred feet. Like I say, the bugs and bunnies don't like the dark. So those types of things are not very good for the environment, as well as invasive species that have taken over in the area, which are preventing the native plants and vegetation area from growing in that area, which are critical to the ecosystem. Grove Park has portions that are lined with gabion baskets and a concrete-lined channel. Those areas have high velocities that go through there. Gabion baskets like that in a concrete channel have no real aquatic benefits or no habitat benefits in those areas. They also cause increased temperature and impairments of the environment downstream. The project goals that we have for this that we worked out are to enhance and restore aquatic, wetland, repair, and habitat in these 2 project sites, stabilize the stream banks, reconnect floodplains. We actually want to get the water back into the floodplain so it'll recharge, it'll infiltrate in, and floodplains will be used for what they're meant for, and also look at controlling the invasive species. Now, the plan to implement these goals is all through using natural stream channel techniques, and I'll show you a couple examples of what we mean by that. you see, I have two slides of photos. These are actually from a project we worked on inside the city of Philadelphia, where we daylighted a stream. We took a stream out of a 700-foot-long culvert and built a whole new stream channel. The picture on the left is showing while it was in construction. It doesn't necessarily look natural with all the amount of stone that's in there, but that's part of that design is to stabilize the channel and hold it in place. The picture on the right is in a similar location that shows you a couple months after construction where you can't see the stone. It's been grown with vegetation. And it looks a lot more natural. Next picture is just another example on the same stream where we had to develop some step pools to bring the stream down several feet in grade in a very short distance. Again, on the left, it looks very heavy with the stone and construction, but on the right, it's a much more natural environment, and it's very difficult to actually see that we've been in there with construction equipment to build that. Both sets of photos were from the stream we built, so there was no stream there originally when we did it. So you can see these natural stream techniques are very effective at trying to duplicate what's in the environment. As mentioned, the total estimated cost right now is $2.6 million. That includes an estimated $2 million for construction. I do want to point out that the estimate for construction is based on past experience with similar projects. When we get into final designs, there will be an updated cost estimate based on the true designs and not necessarily the estimate we put together in the field. But it would be, we know the scope of the projects and the type of funding that we do get, that it would still be within that range as well. That basically breaks out, rounding numbers, is $2 million federal and $660,000 non-federal. The funding we request from the community is to be provided at the same rate that the federal funds are provided. So, as an example, right now we have $200,000, so we would be looking for roughly $66,000 would be to match that. As we get additional federal funds in FY17, then we would look for the next slug of money from the community to match what we get. So we're not requesting the full amount of money up front. It's at the same rate that we're receiving the funding as well. The tentative schedule for this is what we'd like to accomplish is once we execute the agreement, which we're hoping to do in the next month, is that we'd work on an environmental assessment and have that completed within 6 months. That's a requirement the federal government has to comply with the National Environmental Policy Act, is to do an assessment. It's also during the assessment that we've narrowed down on exactly what the solution is at each site. We'll evaluate various alternatives. Designs take about 12 months once we have that done, and then we look to go to construction in about 24 months. So we're looking at approximately a 2-year timetable to get to construction. Now that does assume that there's adequate funding coming in from Congress throughout the project to keep it moving forward. Want to really highlight on this that Abington Township is a member of the project delivery team. That's what we call we bring an interdisciplinary team together. We call it the project delivery team. The township is a partner with that and involved in all the decisions along. So this is not, as I said early on, this is a partnership. It's not like, you execute the agreement and you see me 2 years from now later. You're at the table with us throughout the entire process as we go through. Apologize, I was talking really quick and ran through it, but I did want to give you a quick overview of it, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Manager LaFever.
Mr. Rourke made one point, and I just want to stress with the board, funding for this, the $2 million federal share, is not in the Army Corps of Engineers budget. It needs congressional support for having those funds released. There's a pool of money available for these programs, but it needs action by Congress to release those funds. I approached Congressman Boyle's office to begin that dialogue. They've been very supportive. The timeline to have those funds is relatively tight. The next fiscal year federal budget is usually announced by the President in February. So there is sufficient time, should we decide to move ahead now, to have that accomplished. His office has indicated they're fully supported and they're optimistic it could fall into place. But, this is money that's definitely earmarked in the Corps budget. It does require congressional support.
Okay, thank you, Manager LaFever. And thank you, Mr. Rourke. I'm going to open it up to questions from members of the committee. Commissioner Klein?
So you talked about the initial $200,000 with our match. Without the additional federal funding that would come through in the next budget, is it possible we could be stopped at that point?
Well, at this point, we're not committed to any additional funding on the project. Our share, the initial planning process, the board approved in June, and that's as far as we've gone. The board needs to approve the next step, and that's that agreement before you this evening, the committee this evening. And should you agree to go for it, the next step would be to approach our congressman's office and to get that funding in place so it can move forward. I have, at the same time, I mentioned the TMDL for the Wissahickon. That study is being done by the Pennsylvania Environmental Council. I've been in dialogue with representatives of that office. They feel that these proposed projects are high-impact environmental project and would dovetail perfectly in what they're planning. So they're fully supportive, and they hope to work with the Army Corps as they develop the program, incorporating those projects in their plan. I did indicate that the EPA is expecting significant dollars from municipalities in the Wissahickon watershed, not just on a one-time basis, but as long as 20 to 30 years on an annual basis. So we're being proactive here, trying to get ahead of that obligation, take advantage of some federal funding that might be available, quite honestly beat the other municipalities to those funds, and at least cover our exposure for the first $2.6 million of that obligation. And I do want to recognize the efforts of our Shade Tree Commission, our Environmental Committee, our Engineer's Office, Wastewater, and Parks, who worked with the Corps in developing this project and getting this far. Without the help of everyone involved, the team effort, we never would have reached this point.
Thank you. That's a good point. Commissioner Luker and then Commissioner Bowman.
I was going to ask the same question that Michael just answered. What departments contributed to this? Mr. O'Rourke opened the discussion by saying township officials assisted you, so I was going to ask that question, and Michael just answered it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bowman.
I fully support this project, and, we're constantly trying to undo the damage that was done 50, 60 years ago when the township was built and we put water underground, like the gentleman said, and I fully support this and would vote for it.
Commissioner Schreiber.
So for the different projects, the one that's closest to me is the one at Grove, so I'm just going to focus on that. Is the goal really to focus, will any changes just occur around the Grove property itself, or does the Sandy Run going downstream, is it going to either increase, decrease, or keep the same flooding potential going forward after the project is completed?
Good question. The focus of the project is ecosystem restoration. When I mentioned we reconnect the floodplains and we'll take the concrete out, we'll look to try to retain some of the floodwaters back there for the hope to benefit, to reduce flooding, but that's not our target going in. One thing that we do have to be careful of, and we're required to, is make sure we don't exacerbate flooding. So it will be no worse than it is now. So as we do the project downstream, won't have any adverse impacts with it. Our hope would be to improve flooding, but again, that's not the focus of the projects that we move forward.
Okay.
Manager LaFever.
One last question I'm sure the board was going to ask is where the $662,000 is coming from. We're planning, as part of the 2017 budget, a funding obligation, a new funding obligation next year, a bond issue. This money is included in that. The money is built into the additional debt service next year, so that's already been accounted for. But this project and some other major capital projects tied to other grants, we've addressed those funding obligations as part of the 2017 budget.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Klein.
So in your conversations with PEC, are you confident that they're going to give us full credit if we go ahead with this project, and that this is not going to get diluted among the participating municipalities or participating permit holders for the TMDL?
Absolutely. Initially, I thought our obligation wouldn't be as significant going on the road for the Wissahickon watershed as what EPA evidently has planned. I was able to obtain some additional dollar figures. So this $2.6 million project will definitely benefit Abington Township financially, not necessarily the other municipalities. They're looking for major dollars from these local communities over the next 20, 30 years.
Commissioner Luker.
I have one last question. Michael, what were Congressman Boyle's commitment to this project?
I'm sorry, President Luker, I didn't catch that.
Congressman Boyle's commitment to this project was Could you repeat that?
They've been supportive so far. I've met with staff in Congressman Boyle's office. It's a learning process for them because it's new to them as well, but all the information they have available, they have enough time to take the steps to get the support they'll need to have this included in the 2018 fiscal budget for the federal government. It's kind of a tight timeline, but they think it will fall into place, and they seem very supportive.
Okay.
They understand the benefits of the community.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kalinowski.
Real quick, I want to recognize Eric as a Abington resident and also a neighbor of mine, so he knows what's going on around here. Thank you, Eric.
Any other comments or questions? I can say from personal experience, in full disclosure, Roychester Park is in my neighborhood, and I can tell you that the invasive species that have taken over the stream, and it's something that Doug and I hear about on a regular basis from a few concerned citizens who have taken it upon themselves to try to help ameliorate the problem. It's bad, and so to that end, being able to address that specific component of the project would definitely be a win in addition to the broader goals. And so, I have skin in the game, but I'm definitely supportive of the broader efforts here.
I just have one other question. Our match, Michael, do we have any ability to find other funding for that through other means, or are there restrictions to what we can use for our match?
I mean, ideally, if we could find some grant funding to offset our share, that would be perfect, and certainly we'll look for those opportunities as we move forward.
Are we restricted to anything but federal grant funding? Could we supplement that with additional federal grant funding? Because usually they make restrictions on those.
I'm not aware of any restriction, but it's certainly an option we'll look at.
Definitely worth pursuing.
If I could,
Yes, please.
the 25% match needs to be non-federal.
Non-federal.
So matching with a federal grant or something like that would, there are some exceptions to it that we could look into, but the general is it has to be non-federal funding.
So there might be some state money we can actually look towards, and maybe even some county money we can look at, since it does affect the whole county.
County money.
A little bit.
Commissioner Spiegelman.
Director Hecker, just briefly, just so Commissioner Kalinowski is not the only person showing appreciation for Mr. Rourke, Commissioner Sanchez and I certainly recall the excellent job that he did on the Betawood Basins meeting we had just under a year ago. So it's very nice to see you again, and thank you for your work on this.
With no other comments or questions, thank you, Mr. Rourke, for your
One more. Can I ask one
Commissioner
So one question. So if you don't start restoring these problems, what ultimately happens? I mean, what's the result if you don't start restoring these watersheds?
Without restoring these watersheds, reference Roychester Park, you're going to continue to see erosion in the streams. There's a good chance you'll start to see stream migration as they go through. The stream will start to move. And then with the invasive species taking over, you'll see a loss of the native species, the birds and insects that are in those areas. So you'll see a continued decline of the ecosystem in those areas.
So an overall degradation of the environment.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Rourke. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
We will now take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our final order of business this evening is PW4. This is a motion to accept a grant of sanitary sewer easement from Aqua Pennsylvania Incorporated in and along the rear property line of Montgomery County tax parcel number 300016440009, including block unit number 30195-010 and number 30195-011, and I so move.
Second.
Are there any comments or questions from the committee? I'm not repeating the numbers, so any comments from the board?
All right.
Staff? Members of the audience? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
That concludes our formal business this evening, and now we will entertain comments from members of the audience on any matters relating to Public Works. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
I turned it down. I turned it. You want me to turn it?
No, they have 4 foundations. Public Works would have bang a couple holes in the foundation. It's North Jersey. They would just become lakes.
Let's call to order the Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting for October 5th, 2016, and may I have a roll call, please? Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
First, we have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 29, 2016 Code Enforcement and Land Development Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any comments or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Tonight, we have CE1, subdivision SD 1607, Robert Morris, 1511 Susquehanna Road and 1112 Bridle Road. This is a motion to approve the subdivision and land development application of Robert Morris, applicant and owner for the properties located at 1511 Susquehanna Road and 1112 Bridle Road, Abington Township. The applicant proposes to relocate the existing property lines to create a third lot that will contain the existing carriage house. The carriage house is proposed to be demolished and a new single-family dwelling constructed. The plan submitted has the proposed new lot fronting on Susquehanna Road and having the minimum 1 acre in lot area. The properties are zoned in the R1 residential district in Ward Number 1 of the Township of Abington. The motion subject to conditions and waivers as listed in the agenda, and I so move. Been moved and seconded. I think we have the applicant here this evening, or counsel for the applicant.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. My name's Joe Cools. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here this evening on behalf of the applicant, Mr. Robert Morris. With me are the applicant, Mr. Robert Morris. I also have with me Mr. Brad Hilton, the builder, and Mr. Nick Rose from Protract Engineering, the applicant's engineering consultant. As was stated, the property is approximately 4.2 acres in area. I think you all know where it exists, and this is in essence a 3-lot subdivision. The subdivision being proposed conforms with all the requirements of your zoning ordinance. We're in receipt of review letters from the township. I believe the review letter from the township is dated August 10. We also have a Montgomery County Planning Commission review letter dated September 27. We have been before your Planning Commission. We have a recommendation from your Planning Commission for approval of the plan and a recommendation for the grant of all the waivers. We've been through the letters with the Planning Commission, and the majority of the comments are will complies. There are a number of comments on the letters. I'm glad to go through them with you again if you like. There are a number of comments on the letters that have already been resolved between the time that the letters were generated and this evening. And there are still remaining a number of waivers. And I'm prepared to approach this however you like. Mr. Rose can briefly describe the plan for you. We can walk through the letters for you, or we can just answer whatever questions you have.
I think maybe just a brief description of the plan, but no need to go through the items one by one, but it's just to give everyone a bit of background on the,
okay,
on the
Mr.
plan,
Rose,
if
you
that's
want
okay.
to
Mr.
describe
Rose?
what's being proposed?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
If I could, the property right now is situated sort of an L shape. So here over here is Rydell Road. Of course, now it decides not to work. Over here is Susquehanna Road down here. So right now, the existing dwelling up here, you may have known it as the Volmer property, is up here with a driveway that comes down here. Carriage house is down on this lot. A new dwelling was just recently constructed here that fronts onto Rydell Road. So there actually would be the same number of dwellings afterwards as before. It's just this carriage house down here, which is currently non-conforming, would be removed and replaced with a house farther back in the property that would be conforming with all the zoning requirements. So it's really just taking one lot that currently has 2 houses on it and splitting it in 2 to cause conformancy with the 2 houses on 2 lots instead of on 1 lot.
And that lot shape doesn't create a problem, Mr. Fenical, is that?
There's language within the subdivision land development ordinance about irregularly shaped lots. I believe the solicitor may want to weigh in on that, or the applicant's attorney. The language that's within the ordinance says that it's recommended that we avoid it, but I would tell you it's not a concrete slam dunk statement that says things have to be rectangular or a shape we all recognize.
Understood.
If I'm wrong, one of the two attorneys will correct me.
Anyone want to add?
The shape of these lots, as well as some various other issues connected with this project, have been extensively reviewed by my office and Mr. Pennical, and we have reviewed it with Mr. Pennical. We believe what Mr. Pennical just said is accurate, that we have some language in our ordinance that talks about irregularly shaped lots and sort of says they should be avoided as much as they can be, but that's not a real specific standard. And we believe that from looking at this, that what the applicant has attempted to do is to avoid these oddly shaped lots as best they can, considering the circumstances. So that is not an issue that we have a problem with moving forward.
Thank you, Solicitor Clark. Commissioner Gillespie.
Thank you. Just one question. From what I see, and I'm not an engineer, they will both use that same driveway that's already there?
Correct, correct,
Okay, that's
yes.
It looked obvious to me.
So it doesn't create a flag lot?
It does not create a flag lot, no.
Something we should probably add to our list to look at in the next, round of revisions.
Already been added, sir.
I figured you were on it. Thank you, Mr. Pennical.
And so all three houses are going to use the same driveway, basically?
No, sir, just the two. The existing, what I call estate dwelling to the
Right,
rear,
yeah.
and the replacement home for the carriage house.
And then there's a separate one for the new home?
Yes, that'll exit, ingress and egress off of Rydell Road.
Oh, that goes right. Okay.
Other commissioners? Commissioner Klein, did you want to?
I just wanted to go through the list of waivers, so I understand. I would tell you that the 146-11A property identification plan, I understand, is the existing features plan. Was there not an existing features plan in the original subdivision, Mark?
The original plan had an existing features plan. Unfortunately, sir, what's required under the existing features plan, I've only had one plan in the 22 years I've been here come in that actually complies with that. You have to identify every utility within 400 feet of the site, and the cost associated with that is the only one that's ever done it is Abington School District.
Okay. So that is something that we could require, or is it something that was part of the original subdivision? To some extent, it was part of the original subdivision?
The applicant has identified the utilities that are on site, and as those utilities extend into the public right-of-way. What the applicant has not done is identified utilities that are on surrounding properties within a 400-foot radius of the property.
Which is what was done on the original subdivision. There's no less information being shown now than there was on the original subdivision.
There's actually more. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there's a revised floodplain on these plans that weren't inclusive on the last submission.
Okay, I didn't want to leave the impression that we were showing something on the original plan that we weren't now showing on this plan. We're certainly showing what we showed on the original plan, and as Mr. Pennical points out, even a little more.
Was an existing features plan waived in the original subdivision? I can't remember.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There's provision of it, Stephen, the 400-foot identifying every utility off-site.
Right. The proposed layout plan, architectural plans are not part of this. I mean, is the applicant going to be building the same type of house that they built on Lot 3? On Lot 2?
That's the current intent, to build the same lot that's on Lot 3 currently on Lot 2. There is no...
So why are we waiving the architectural plans if you already have plans?
Well, because you've already seen the plans, and because the home is already under construction, which is going to be, at least the current intent is that it's going to be identical.
But have the plans been submitted?
The plans were submitted as part of the building permit process on Lot 3, correct?
But part of the subdivision, where the waiver wouldn't be required.
The architectural plans that were submitted as part of the Lot 3 building permit application were not also submitted as part of this subdivision and land development application.
But they could be because you already have them.
They could be.
Shade trees, the 5 feet from the property line. I see the Planning Commission recommended. I think the County Planning Commission also mentioned them.
Yes, again, the applicant's not looking to eliminate the planting of the shade trees. What they were looking for was a waiver request that the trees not have to be planted within 5 foot of the front property line. They're looking for leeway to allow those trees to be planted as much as 25 feet back from the front property line.
Okay.
That has some advantage to us with the changes in utilities over the year, with gas lines now being non-metal, with underground electrical cables now being plastic encasement. Those shade trees kick those utilities around. Even our water lines are plastic today.
Are there any additional tree removal for this new plan than was proposed in the original subdivisions?
No, there isn't. In fact, since the last version of the plan, there's been some repositioning of the house to save a beechwood tree, which was raised in the Township Review Letter. The Township Review Letter you have before you is an August 10 review letter. It makes mention of a drip line modification in an attempt to preserve a beech or beechwood, I forget, beech tree. The house was actually relocated, and that tree is going to be saved.
Okay. Street improvement plan, Mark, can you explain to me what that entails in the phasing plan also?
Yeah, that, sir, would be a profile plan of any improvements that are being made to the public right-of-way.
Which we're not doing on this plan because the driveway entrance is already there.
It remains the same, and there's, again, you have a waiver request for the installation of curb, gutter, and sidewalk, so there are essentially no public improvements that would require a street improvement plan.
Okay. And obviously not a phasing plan because it's a single lot.
It is a single lot plan, sir.
Right-of-way width?
Right-of-way width, if I can, the applicant does plot the ultimate right-of-way width on the plan. The lot areas are calculated based on the ultimate right-of-way width. However, as it's laid out today, they're giving us the existing right-of-way. You can speak to the applicant. If they want to offer to the ultimate right-of-way, that's up to them, but it won't affect the lot areas as they were laid out on the plan.
So it's plotted to the right, so the lot areas, all the setbacks and everything are working off of the ultimate right-of-way?
Yes, sir, they are.
So is there a reason why we have this waiver on here?
Other than the fact that the ultimate right-of-way isn't being offered for dedication, we need the waiver.
Is there a reason why we're not, I mean, if you're already plotting everything to the ultimate right-of-way, is there a reason why we're not, why this waiver is required?
We can offer dedication to the ultimate right-of-way. Certainly, we have no interest in owning it. Should it be eventually improved? I mean, it doesn't do us any good.
Okay.
We're measuring setbacks from it. We're netting it out of lot area. We're netting it out of impervious surface calculations as required by your ordinance. So it's really virtually property that's unusable to us under any circumstances anyway. So we're glad to put an offer on the plan, and just like any other offer of dedication, it would be an offer that would be acceptable or acceptable for a period of 21 years after it was made.
Mark, any issues with?
None at all, sir. We'll eliminate.
Mike, do you see any? Mike Powers, do you see any issues with taking the back to the ultimate?
It's always recommended that we do take that just in case, in the past, if we hadn't taken that, if sidewalks ever went in, then we have to pay for the right-of-way down the road, so I think we should take it.
You think, I'm sorry.
I think we should take the ultimate right-of-way.
Okay.
Well, just to be clear, are you talking about taking it, or are you talking about us offering it?
Well, offering it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to make an offer on a plan. Whether you take it or not is up to you for a period of 21 years. You may choose not to for some period of time, or you may choose to on day 2, take it. But I don't think you're making a decision right now to accept the offer that we just made.
I'm only talking about whether we really need to have the waiver or not. What happens after that fact is a question that can happen later. Do we need the waiver if you already have the ultimate right-of-way plotted? Is there a reason why we have this waiver on here?
Since the applicant is offering the ultimate right-of-way for dedication, Stephen, we can remove the waiver from the motion.
Okay.
And we'll state that by the time you folks get a plan to sign, we'll depict on the plan that an offer to the ultimate right-of-way has been made.
Curbing and sidewalk, obviously there's nothing on there. Lot shape, we already talked about. Street lighting, what does that waiver entail?
Our ordinance requires a street light to be placed within 50 feet on each frontage. As you're well aware, there's limited existing streetlights up Bridle Road. I guess the frame country lane has been used to describe that. The applicant is not, the plan does not reflect the installation of any additional streetlights, so a waiver would be needed for that.
How many streetlights would that be including? You said every 50, not every 50 feet.
The way it's written up in the ordinance, it calls for a streetlight in 50-foot intervals. The applicant shows 2 existing poles there that have streetlights, and I believe, sir, you are looking at, I can't read it. Nick, do you have the total frontage?
2 existing poles on Rydell Road? Is that what you're talking about?
On Rydell Road that have streetlights.
Yeah. Don't worry about it, Mark.
Okay. Stephen, I believe you're looking at over an 800 linear foot run.
Yeah, you're not going to.
Between lot 3 and the other lot that fronts on, well, it's not involved in this plan, so it wouldn't count. But you got a 400 foot run that we'd be looking at.
Okay. And you said every 50 feet they would have to put them in? Based on the
I don't
ordinance?
have the ordinance with me, but I believe that's what it calls for.
Okay. I would leave that waiver. Okay. And then the last question is, can somebody explain to me how the setbacks work with regards to Lot 3? And I would even venture to question about Lot 1, given the fact that, I mean, the setback shown on Susquehanna Road for that small appendage that substantiates a corner property shows a 50-foot setback, but that 50-foot setback is non-contiguous with any building area. Or with any, not building area, excuse me, building envelope.
I can explain it to you. It's measured 50 foot off the ultimate right-of-way of Susquehanna, so it's a setback line which indicates that nothing is to be built closer than that line to Susquehanna. There's no requirement that that be part of the building envelope. The building envelope is an intact, closed area which you see further up on the plan.
And how about Lot 1? Can you explain how you interpret the ordinance and the 200 foot of frontage?
Okay, just give me one moment. Lot 1. Well, I'm not aware that there is a 200-foot frontage requirement under the ordinance, is there?
On Lot 1?
Okay. Well, the way it's calculated is, as you can see, there's 200 foot of linear distance along Susquehanna Road. That is part of Lot 1. That's 200 foot of frontage on Lot 1.
But isn't it, Mark, isn't that measured back from the setback line? The frontage has to be back to the setback line?
Well, no, lot width is measured at the setback line. You asked me about frontage. There's 200 foot of frontage, which is along the ultimate right-of-way of Susquehanna. If you want to know what the lot width is, measured at the front yard setback, as required by the lot width definition of your ordinance, there's something in excess of 200 feet as required by your ordinance, because as you can see, the lot line on the left-hand side of that frontage jogs slightly to the left at a distance shorter than 50 feet. So it's something slightly over 200 feet. So there's 200 foot of frontage on Lot 1, and pursuant to your lot width definition under your ordinance, there's something slightly in excess of 200 feet of lot width.
Yeah. I'm good.
Minus 40.
Commissioner Klein, you're finished there?
Yeah, I mean, before the committee would vote, I would ask for certain waivers to be changed in the, but we can wait till after everybody else's and public talks.
Was trying to keep score, was that 8 and...
What's that?
Waiver number 8 and...
Yeah, I mean, I think number 8 was the only one. Yep. So.
Comments from other commissioners? Members of the audience? And I don't know if I need a formal motion, but I would make a motion to remove waiver 8 from the motion.
Second.
The amended motion's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
And then all those in favor of the motion as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And I believe that concludes our formal business, and we'll take public comment on general matters of code enforcement and land development. Hearing none, can we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
That's why the chief is here.
I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee of October 5th, 2016 to order. Can I have a roll call, please? Commissioner Schreiber? Here.
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 Thank you very much. And now can we have a motion to approve the minutes of the August 31st, 2016 Public Safety Committee meeting?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any changes or corrections from anybody? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes have been approved, and now we will call on Chief Kelly for our Police Department report this evening.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, let us start out tonight with turning it over to our Traffic Safety Manager, Officer Al Freed.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. Just a reminder, it is October now, and the September Traffic Safety Blitz is winding down and coming to an end. We have extended to the area of the school district buildings, the elementary schools and the senior high, leaving the yard signs out for several more weeks yet to hopefully bring more awareness to those areas with the school zones. So if you see signs up around the school district buildings, they'll be up for a couple more weeks yet. Also, with it being October, as you know, near the end of the month, it'll be Halloween. So just urge everybody, all the motorists out there, to be aware of the trick-or-treaters and the increased pedestrian traffic that's usually around this time.
Very good. Thanks. Al, any questions of our Traffic Safety Manager? Then let me turn it over to Tom McEnany, our Emergency Management Administrator, who has some very brief information, but good information for the board.
I'm sorry, Chief Kelly, one thing. Al, since the bike lanes on Valley Road have been up, could we get a speed study on that again at some point when you have the box available?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. I'm usually the Grim Reaper coming with bad news, so the Chief likes to let me come out and give some good news every once in a while. And just to give everybody get back in a time machine, January of this year we had the fourth largest snowstorm in Pennsylvania history. Winter Storm Jonas dropped almost 2 feet of snow in 30 hours over a weekend in the township. So it was something that FEMA declared a disaster for our area, which is good for us. Not that we want to have a disaster declared, but if we're spending money to clean up a disaster, it enables us to recover funds. During that snowstorm, 76 different employees in the township spent 2,574 hours, all on overtime because it was over the weekend. We used 762 tons of salt. And the amazing thing is we were back open for business on Monday. I think some of the snow just melted in Philadelphia in some of those side streets about 2 weeks ago. So for us to be back open for business that Monday is just an amazing effort by our snow removal crews. But the work didn't stop there. Ed Michelo's staff, Eileen Marks in particular, Doug Wendell's staff, and the township administrative and finance staff, we were all able to work together to get all the documentation. And just to give you an idea, all the documentation we had to submit is in a 4-inch binder. This is what we submitted to FEMA. So we were able to pretty much account for, if I asked Ed, he could account for every grain of salt that was dropped over that weekend, which is great because in order to recover the money, we have to be able to document really almost down to that minutia of detail. So our costs were $304,173 for that weekend. It's an expensive weekend. FEMA took a look at all of our paperwork. They approved that amount. They didn't
couldn't come back. They actually tried to give us more money than we were supposed to get, but we had to tell them that they overestimated some of the costs. Otherwise, I didn't want to be locked up in like 4 years when they did an audit. So, of that, we're eligible for a 75% reimbursement from FEMA, so that nets out to $228,130. We should be getting that direct deposit within the next 6 to 8 weeks, so that should be helpful for the end of the year bottom line. And, as I said, the reimbursement process, it's a pretty lengthy process, and it's a team effort by all departments down to the documentation. When the last snowflake falls, that's not when the effort ends. It keeps going on for months afterwards and piles up into a lot of dead trees in a binder, but it pays off for us. Our documentation is key, and you see since 2010, the township's been able to recover over $1 million in funds from FEMA for these disaster declarations. The downside is we've had 5 disaster declarations in 6 years. The upside is we're getting pretty good at doing this, so we're able to maximize the amount that we're able to recover. So, like I said, I'd like to be able to come and give some good news, and hopefully this is pretty good news. And then on a side note, Hurricane Matthew is hanging a hard right out to sea, so this Sunday everybody should have a nice Sunday. Nobody has to worry about any sort of rains or flooding. So that's about all I have for you, unless there's any questions.
Do you have any predictions for this year? Can you tell us, because we're doing all this, that we will have no snow? Could you please come forward with that information?
I wouldn't gamble on anything I would predict.
The old EMAP almanac.
Yeah, exactly. As you can see from Hurricane Matthew, they can't tell you what's going to happen 3 days from now, let alone 3 months from now. But
I know that. Although I keep hearing people telling us we're having a good winter, a bad winter. I've heard all kinds of predictions.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I think
Questions for Tom?
I think Manager LaFever is praying for a good winter, so John Spiegel is not sleeping in his conference room.
Any other kinds of comments for Tom or questions?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Threw me off. Many thanks, Tom.
I just wanted to mention, Tom is one of those people in our staff that does all of this work behind the scenes. You don't see him or hear about it very much, but you can see a lot is going on, and you see the big binder that he has there. That's part of the documentation that was necessary to get that. And I will make the comment, just in case the finance wants to know this, that $228,000 was not in the budget. But it's coming in, so that's a good thing, right? Good.
We'll take it.
It'll get spent.
Anything else this evening,
Chief? That was a private joke. I apologize.
And now we know that Tom's honest to a
Did it in
fault.
public, so it's not a private joke anymore.
That's right. All right, very good. So just a couple things I want to report to you on. Most of you saw the news from about 2 weeks ago where Sergeant Ozzie Toledo and Officer Gary Martinez disarmed that armed man who was wanting to commit suicide. He was just such a great job that they did. But I want to extend that credit to the board. Part of the training that we did this last year, intense training, was in these type of issues, these close quarter, hand-to-hand type things, and those decisions to try to accomplish 2 things. Protect the officer and prevent them from having to use deadly force when possible. Now, if circumstances were just slightly different, they wouldn't have been able to do it, handle it that way. But because of that and so on, and if you remember last year when we were going through budget things and so on, we were talking about cutting back pretty dramatically in the training area, and I implored you not to do that. And we found other ways to handle that and make the things meet. And that training is just so important in our business, especially right now. And on behalf of all the members of the organization, I want to thank you for doing that and allowing us to continue providing that type of quality training to our officers, because as you can see, it's just so important. Doesn't happen often, but when they need it, it can be critical. It can be a matter of life and death, as it clearly was in this particular case. I wanted to advise you that the Commendation Review Board has gotten together, reviewed this case, and they'll be giving him, the two officers, a Class 2 award. And the reason I mention that is because Class 2 and Class 3 awards are presented before the Board of Commissioners. You've never seen a Class 2 award before. All the others, the highest ones that you've seen before, Class 3s. This will be the first time in many years we'll be giving out a Class 2 award. Also, we're told that the congressman and also the state rep will be coming down to give awards at that particular thing. So I just wanted to make you aware of that. I am not going to be at Thursday's meeting. Deputy Chief John Levin is going to be filling in for me. I'm going to be in San Diego at the International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference. I mentioned it to you before. They notified us that Abington Township won the International Association of Chiefs of Police and Cisco Systems Community-Oriented Policing Award. You may remember that President Obama has recently been talking about how important community policing is, and as recently as the vice presidential debate earlier this week, they were just talking about how community policing is where policing needs to go. And we're just so proud that not only have we been a leader in doing community policing for all this while, but to win this one of 4 police departments in the world to receive this recognition. We're really proud of it. I think I'd mentioned to you before, in the 18 years that this award has been in existence, no other police department out of the 1,117 law enforcement agencies in Pennsylvania have ever won it. So we're very proud of that. Just a couple other things going on I want you to be aware of. The NAACP Banquet, October 16th. The Pal Food Festival, October 18th. And I also want to advise you, Al mentioned about traffic safety and Halloween. I wanted to tell the board that we're going to be doing some additional patrols and so on for Halloween. As you've all seen in the news about some of these different threats that are out there related to Halloween. We've kind of been, we used to do a lot around Halloween for the child safety. Because it's been very quiet, we've sort of quieted it down, but we are going to have extra patrols out there and extra precautions out there for Halloween. So if you get any phone calls, the main reason I'm telling you is that I'm sure people are seeing this stuff in news media, probably going to be asking me questions about it, and wanted you to know that you can tell them with confidence that we'll be geared up for be out there to protect our children on Halloween. And that's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, and congratulations on that award.
Congratulations.
Does anybody have any questions or comments for the chief?
Just very briefly, Chief, many thanks for those extra Halloween patrols. Much appreciated. I know people are going to be very happy to hear that.
Good. That's what we're hoping that they feel more secure.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? And I want to acknowledge that we have Rich Garrett here waving to us from in the audience there from the Second Alarmers, and we have John Rohr here from the Fire Department. Do either of you gentlemen have anything that you want to report?
No. Just a reminder that next week is National Fire Prevention Week. Schedules are on the township calendar for the open houses.
Thank you for announcing that. All righty.
Commissioner Schreiber?
Yes.
And I had mentioned this to Manager Lefevre a couple months ago. I realize it's National Fire Prevention Week. I am a little disappointed that we have open houses on Yom Kippur. I know it coincided with the same, but I think some accommodation should have been made for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments for any of these gentlemen? Okay, then we're going to start with our regular agenda. PS1 is a motion to adopt ordinance number 2126, amending Chapter 156, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 14, Stopped Intersections, and Article 3, Parking Regulations, Section 25, Parking Prohibited at all times, no parking between signs, no parking here to corner, parking prohibited except certain hours, no stopping or standing, and Section 28, Special Purpose Parking Zones at the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners on October 13th, 2016 at 7:30 p.m., and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from commissioners? Staff, audience? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. PS2 is a motion to advertise ordinance number 2127, amending Chapter 156, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 2, Traffic Regulations, Section 14, Stop Intersections, for adoption at the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Commissioners on November 10th, 2016, at 7:30 p.m., and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions from commissioners, staff, audience? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. PS3 is a motion to authorize township officials to accept a grant award from the North Central Highway Safety Network, Inc. in the amount of $15,000 with the township's matching portion of $1,000. The township's match will cover the Social Security cost of the officers working the grant, as this expense is not covered by the grant. At the conclusion of the grant, the Social Security expense will be transferred to 01-04-044-5110, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from commissioners? Staff? Audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. PS4 is a motion directing the police department to donate to the Bikes for Tykes program, care of Sussman Automotive, all unclaimed bicycles and bicycle parts which have been confiscated and are being held by the department, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments from commissioners? Other than for me to say I think this is a good program?
Good program.
Any comments from our staff? Audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. PS5 is a motion to authorize staff to proceed with the implementation of lieutenant's promotional examination with the cost up to $35,000 to be included in the 2017 budget, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Chief, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
No, Madam Chair. This was all part of the plan. It is in the already in the 2017 budget, and but we need to be able to plan to give that, obviously, to take some planning, and so we're asking for your permission to go ahead with that in 2017. It'll be expended in 17 out of that budget. It just so we can move forward with it and do the planning for it, and we'll be doing it in the first quarter of the year.
Okay. Any questions from commissioners? Do we know how many people that will be that take that?
Say that again, Commissioner.
Do you know how many people will be taking that exam?
It's a relatively small number, Commissioner, that'll be eligible for that. We're thinking the number is probably going to be somewhere in the area of 10. I will elaborate that it's a really more than just a promotional exam. By civil service regulation, we're required to do a written exam and a oral exam, and so there's actually two expenditures involved in that. But the larger one is also because they put them through a very developmental process. So whether they actually get promoted or not is actually part of their own personal development, management development, and career development. So it'll be something that'll be beneficial above and beyond just hopefully getting the right people for promotion, actually help develop them and get them ready for that promotion as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds good.
Any comments from staff? Audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That ends our regularly scheduled agenda. Are there any comments on public safety issues from audience, staff, or commissioners? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to
Motion to adjourn.
adjourn.
Second. Yes.
We are adjourned.
Adjournment. Chair here. All right. All right, I am happy to convene the October 5th, 2016 meeting of the Abington Township Public Affairs Committee. Let's start with the roll call, please.
Commissioner Spiegelman.
Here.
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 We're all here. All right, we will start with the approval of minutes. A motion to approve the minutes of the August 31st, 2016 Public Affairs Committee meeting, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any corrections from anyone? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. All right, we have some reports tonight. We're going to start, as always, with Parks and Recreation Director Doug Wendell. Hello, hello, Doug. Hello, Director Wendell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello to you. Just one thing, we did have our first meeting for a feasibility study this past week, and that was to develop the survey instrument. And as I understand it, the survey instrument should be ready in the next week or so. We're taking comments from the committee. As soon as it is ready, it will. The URL is already there, but it isn't activated. So once we get the survey finalized and the URL is activated, the commissioners will all be notified as to what that URL is. It will be also on our webpage, our Facebook page, hopefully maybe in the newspaper, wherever we can put it so that anyone who's interested in participating in the survey can go on. I believe it's going to be a Survey Monkey type survey. So that'll be coming out in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll start gathering information and continue this the study.
And now, Doug, for the benefit of the vast at-home audience, this is the feasibility study for redoing the pools.
Right, that's going to look at all the different aspects that we need to see, whether the pools are, the financial, the maintenance, the development, and then ideas for capital projects as we go down the road.
Sounds good.
It's desperately needed.
Thank you, Colin. Any questions for Director Wendell? All right, moving briskly along. We have visitors representing our fantastic library. I see Director Nancy Hamilton Marshall in the audience. Hello, Director Marshall. And I know we're going to have from our Library Board of Trustees President, Mr. Tom Tyler, we're going to have a report.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Nancy. Nancy's a little under the weather this evening.
We hope you feel better.
Hope so. I'm Tom Tyler, and I am honored to serve as the president of the Library Board of Trustees. The library, of course, this year is celebrating its 50th anniversary, which is a big celebration for the library. I've been remiss. I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can because I told my daughter I'd pick her up at 8:30, so I got to fly through this. But I've been remiss since I've been president over the last 2 years to attend public affairs meetings with any regularity. So I'm going to try to improve upon that and stop by 2 or 3 times a year. I don't hope to be a pest. Tonight there are no issues of any urgency for the library. I'm not coming here with hat in hand. I just wanted to bring the commissioners up to and the Public Affairs Committee up to speed on some recent developments with the library. The principal issue that is concerning us right now is and that I want to keep you all mindful of is the maxed out capacity that the library is facing on a consistent basis. As you may know, the state law requires that libraries be roughly the size of 1 square foot per capita per resident in the township. And with about 48,000 residents in Abington, we should be a facility of about 48,000 square feet. And in fact, we're half that. We're 24,000 square feet. And that 24,000 square feet includes space not available for public use, such as library, offices, the circulation desk, utilities, and so on. So we're faced with the fact that if we were to judge our capacity by what the state requires of us, we really ought to be about twice the size of what we are from a physical plan standpoint. Now, set against that physical size of the library is the use of the library. Nancy provided me with some figures last week that show what the circulation, those who actually have taken items out of the library for 1 month this summer in July. The summer is always extremely busy for the library. And I can tell you, it's broken down by ward. I won't go through all of the numbers per ward, but Mr. Klein's Ward 1 has the largest usage with 2,751 loans made for the month of July, followed by the library's own commissioner, Mr. Spiegelman, Ward 11 at 2,419 loans.
We're very literate.
And rounding out the top 3 was Mr. Farron's Ward 12 at 2,360 loans. I might add Ben Sanchez, my commissioner, Ward 7. If we had 2 more loans, we could have beat him for 3rd place for July. So, but including...
Put that Kindle down, Ben.
That's right. But circulation for the through the end of August, from year to date down to the end of August, both regular and children's loans, non-print items such as CDs and Kindles and such, totaled 297,000 loans made through the end of August. It's almost 300,000. And that's just circulation. We actually have in the turnstiles over 1,000 people a day. It's not unusual for Nancy to email us to say, we've hit 1,500 or 1,800 people today. It's at least 1,000 that come through the turnstiles one day. The turnstile count this year, through the end of August, was nearly 172,000 people coming through the front doors, and that's an increase from the previous year of 6%. At peak times, there's not a seat available in the library. At non-peak times, it's hard to find a place to sit down. And I have to congratulate the staff and recognize the library staff on its remarkable management on the consistent demands placed on them to serve the needs, not just of Abington Township, but we have people from all over the region coming. Philadelphia, Upper Dublin. I think Upper Dublin is the second largest out-of-township use we have. They all find our library to be a true oasis. Now, what has caused us some concern is that looking at these facts, we know that Penn State is building dorms housing 400 kids almost precisely across the street from us. And we realized that about 6 months ago and started wondering what the heck is going to be happening. We're already at capacity. We already know that Penn State students, on an informal basis, we know that Penn State students use the library now. So we should expect that some proportion of the 400 kids living across the street are going to be finding the library as attractive as 172,000 people do up till now through August. So to get a sense of what that might mean, we met with the Chancellor of Penn State, the new Chancellor, Damian Fernandez. We met with the Director of Student Affairs, Gina Kaufman, and with Dolores Fitterson, who's the librarian there, over a series of meetings. Nancy and I met with them, and they tried to, they told, I won't say they tried, but they did explain to us what measures they are taking to try to keep students on the campus and not feel the need to branch out and go to other places to do what they need to do. There's going to be a shuttle, a regular shuttle that just circulates through the township. They're going to have Wi-Fi space in the dorms, Wi-Fi space on campus. So optimally, there shouldn't be a need to have all these kids to come to our library. And we can't know for certain how that's going to work. I want to emphasize, we're not trying to discourage anybody from coming to the library. We're just trying to anticipate what might happen, because there's not a lot of margin for us. And so in the coming weeks and coming months and a year from now, when those kids are going to be living there, we'll have a better handle on it. We've got some plans that we're exploring to maybe do some additional building. That may involve some requests to the township. But at this point, I'm not making that request. But I at least want to put you all on the same level of understanding that we're at. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tyler. And I certainly, I know we have to get on with our meeting, and you have to pick up your daughter. But just briefly, without going into detail, the library is an absolute essential gem of a resource for our township. It's one of the things that defines us as a community. So if your board needs any help, say, looking for grants that might come into play down the road, I'm a huge fan of applying for grants.
Yeah.
Anything, to make those dreams of building expansion, et cetera, come true. Whatever we can do, whatever, I'm sure the EDC would be willing to help. So keep that in mind. Certainly, you'll get plenty of support. Very quick, is there going to be a bake sale on Election Day?
I believe there is.
Just give me, I know if you're sick, don't talk, just thumbs up, thumbs down, it's fine.
Just a heads up, the library is closed for business on the general election, the day of the general election. But of course, we're open for voting for the 2 wards. And yes, there will be a bake sale.
All right. Bringing my money. Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you, Mr. Tyler. All right.
I was just going to say very quickly that I was at your the plant sale and book sale thing. And you're right, there was, when I went inside, there was not a single seat in there. It was just unbelievably crowded and well-attended, and it was a good event, but it was very well-attended.
Please.
Sorry, Tom isn't here to hear this. Tom used the word, I want to be clear. He said the state requires 1 square foot per capita. It is the recommendation of the American Library Association and the Pennsylvania Library Association and the state library. It is not a legal requirement. However, if Abington Township were to build a brand-new library today, it would be unheard of not to adhere to that recommendation. Okay, it's not a requirement, it's a recommendation.
You want to have a free-range library, not the patrons all in little pens. Completely understandable. Again, thank you, Director Marshall. All right, let us move on to our formal agenda with PA1, the 2016 HUD Program, Architectural and Engineering Contract, Crestmont Park Community Facility. This is a motion to approve and enter into a contract with Daly and Jalboot Architects Incorporated for preparation of construction documents for a new community facility at Crestmont Park in the amount of $66,800, and I so move.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Director Strother, do you have any comments on this? It sounds like it's pretty straightforward, but...
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it is straightforward. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Good evening.
After the July 14th board approval to enter into a contract with the stated firm, Abington Hospital expressed a high interest in participating with the township in the summer meal lunch program for income-eligible youth students. In addition to that, they also talked about other food and health initiative programs that they would like to participate with the township in. Having heard that, the building was added, the scope was increased by having a basement and putting geothermal and solar panels on the building to reduce the carbon footprint of the building. I reported that back to the stated firm, and they responded with a substantial price increase, which neither the township manager or I agreed to, and there was a brief conversation that we couldn't support that, and that brought us to this point to go to the next firm to award the contract to.
All right. Thank you for the explanation, Director Strother. Any questions or comments from commissioners on the committee, commissioners in general, staff, audience? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
PA1 has passed. PA2, grant award acceptance for TCDI grants, Walk Park Train Abington. This is a motion to accept the Transportation and Community Development Initiative, TCDI, grant from Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, the good old DVRPC, in the amount of $75,000. The grant will support the Walk Park Train Abington concept of our master bike plan, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Manager Lefevre, any comments? Again, pretty straightforward, I think. But
It is. This grant provides us the next opportunity to implement another phase of the master bike plan that was approved by the board last year. This does require a match of $18,500 that we can take from 2016 contingency funds. It is available for use, so hopefully we'll be able to implement additional phase of that bike plan.
You had me at contingency funds. Any questions or comments from commissioners on the committee? Commissioners in general, Commissioner Klein.
We still haven't heard from the TAP grant from the state? On
Not
the
yet,
state
no.
funding pool?
Any day now.
Any day now.
I hear a lot of any day now. Would that TAP grant be able to fund our match, or is that not?
It's for another portion. It's for,
okay.
it's for a portion in the western part of the township.
Okay.
So.
All right then.
And is this this is the same grant that we used to get other money we got this year, correct?
And this was the grant that initially funded the bike plan itself.
That's right. Okay, thank you.
Any comments or questions from township staff? Audience, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
PA2 is passed. PA3, consultant acceptance for TCDI grant, Walk Park Train Abington. This is a motion to accept the proposal from the team of Simone Collins, Landscape Architecture and Traffic Planning and Design Incorporated, to prepare the Walk Park Train Abington plan through the TCDI grant from DVRPC, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. again, this just a...
The township has worked with this firm in the past, but a requirement of the grant was that we go through the RFP process, which we did. We did receive proposals from a number of firms, and it is recommendation to staff that we remain with Simone Collins. The cost of their services is included in the grant funds.
Right. And Simone Collins is the firm that actually drafted the bike plan. Am I right? It's Simone Collins, right? Not Simone. Thank you.
Yes.
I know Commissioner Klein, Mr. Bike Plan has something.
Well, it's just, it's appropriate to say the county is starting to do their master bike plan. And, that was put on the committee, but they're going to be incorporating the Abington bike plan as part of their overall plan.
Excellent. All right. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Staff? Audience? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
PA3 has passed. Finally, PA4, Act 511, Tax Hearing Officer. This is a motion to approve for the remainder of 2016 Stephen P. Imms, Jr., Esquire, as the Abington Township Hearing Officer for Act 511 Tax Appeals, and I so move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Manager LaFever, brief overview.
Thank you, Commissioner Spiegelman. I apologize. This was a late addition to the board agenda. I am relaying this information from our tax collector, Mr. Blumenthal. As the board is aware, back in 2013, we adopted our taxpayer bill of right regulations that were required for any municipality that had Act 511 taxes in place, mercantile business privilege taxes. And those guidelines basically provide for the implementation of those tax and any appeal rights for any taxpayer who feels they were unjustly impacted by the tax. There is an ongoing tax audit program, business tax audit program, and there's been one business case where a significant finding has been found and an ongoing dialogue between the taxpayer and the tax office. It appears they may want to proceed within the next month to a hearing, an appeal hearing. Our guidelines require that we do have that hearing within 30 days and that hearing be conducted by a hearing officer obviously versed in 511 tax regulations. So because of the time constrictions involved, we're asking the board to appoint Mr. Imes just for the remainder of this year to cover us for this one tax. And then in January, when we make our normal appointments, we'll add that appointment to the agenda if the board wants to make other provisions moving forward from that point.
I'll make another proper pronunciation of Mr. Imes' name. So then in January, would we foresee putting out, almost like a request for proposals or accepting resumes for this position?
We've had these regulations in place for 3 years. We've never had a hearing before, so I don't know that there will be a big influx of appeals in the future. Our procedures for requirements for RFP are tied to a certain dollar level. I don't think this position would ever approach those, but it's certainly an opportunity the board would have. And we could do that before then. We could begin that process now if you wanted to move in that direction.
Okay. All right. Entertaining questions or comments from commissioners on the committee? Commissioners in general? Staff? Audience? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
PA4 has passed. That concludes our formal agenda. If anyone has any questions or comments pertaining to the general purview of public affairs, please speak now.
Hey, can I just ask a quick question, Doug?
Commissioner Markman.
Hey, Doug, I just want to make tonight more... The Applethorpe Park, I've had a couple calls recently about hours and everything else. So what are we doing with Applethorpe at this point?
We're not changing anything that's already set up, and they should already be in the brochures.
Okay.
I'm not sure of the exact date, but as the times change.
Daylight savings time?
When it changes, the park will start closing earlier, but because of the fact that it still doesn't get dark until 7 o'clock or so, the time isn't as late as, it's not like 10 o'clock or 5 o'clock. It might go to 7 o'clock, and then I think there's another stage. I'd have to check on the exact times, but I think it's in the brochure, and if you'd like, I could send it to you tomorrow.
So we're just trying to keep it open when it's light out, basically?
As much as possible, and then because the daylight saving time starts earlier in the spring, we open up a little later than daylight savings time. So, because it still gets a little bit dark at that time. So we're trying to just keep operational costs down, but still provide an opportunity for people to use the park.
All right, thank you.
I'll send the numbers to you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Doug. If there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. And a second.
So moved, second.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.